Welcome to Newsmakers. I'm Lisa Oligas. In Missouri, the 2020 legislature enacted House Bill 1414. The law requires several reforms to Missouri's child protection system, including establishing a research and evaluation team to review and evaluate foster care cases. As it works on reforms, others locally are working to keep kids out of foster care while supporting those in the system. In this Newsmakers, we will visit again with Foster Adopt Connect about its mission and events coming up in 2024 to fund its efforts to support children removed from their homes. We're joined by Tom Furr, the Joplin Foster Adopt Connect branch director. Welcome back, Tom.
Hey, Lisa, thank you so much for having me.
So you're getting close to an anniversary, celebrating, your presence here in Joplin, and there's a push for reform in this care. You have programs that hopefully will keep kids out of getting in the system altogether. Let's talk about some of those things that are in place and what kind of impact you're seeing of those.
For sure. So absolutely, we have a fostering prevention program that is designed to do exactly that, to keep that biological family intact. So to keep that child or children from coming into care when some risks are identified. And so through that program, we offer a lot of advocacy and support and education. Really, we offer a nurturing parenting curriculum that comes alongside that family for a full year. And we're in the home every week providing parenting classes, parenting programming to really beef up those skills for that family. Mm-hmm. And a lot of that looks like dignified discipline, maybe some trauma-informed parenting, just different things like that, some communication skills.
So as you're celebrating an anniversary coming up, and you've been here in the market for a year or two?
Yeah, so March will be our second full year serving families directly in Joplin.
And this way you get some data.
Yeah, exactly. And so we're really excited. This December will mark our first full calendar year providing services from January through December. And so we're really excited again just to be able to see the impact that we've been able to provide. And we know that we've served more than 240 families in Joplin, and we know directly through that prevention program we've served 55. I'm lying to you.
Wow.
That's wrong. Our prevention program has served 10. We've served 10 families through that program. And again, that's week after week. Mm-hmm. And so our program specialist in that area has been very busy. If you can imagine seeing 10 families every week, right? Like that's
we have a little profile to show later on that, but you have other programs too. And you also support folks with the closet.
Yes.
It's a food closet.
Absolutely.
And it's Sammy's, right?
Sammy's Window is our clothing boutique. And so with that, we serve about 30 families a month through that, give or take. We have some lulls and some larger months, right? So, but about 30 families a month come through there. And we serve whole families through that. And so you can imagine if a child comes into foster care and they get placed, that foster family can come in and shop. But we also support that bio family. So as they're working their case goal of reunification and they need clothing for a job interview, or maybe they need some new clothing to go to court and work their case, we offer supports for them. So they can come in, those bio families can come in and shop as well. And that program, that clothing boutique is open to all foster and adopted families in our service area, which is Jasper, Newton, McDonald, and we go north into Barton, Vernon, Cedar, and Dade County. So they can come in and shop. And then any family enrolled in any of our other programming. And so we have a kinship program that serves grandparents with grandkids, or as you'll see in this later segment, some young family members stepping up in big ways to support loved ones, right? Who need support, need a place.
So all the things you do require some fundraising because you have a lot that you're doing. Yeah. Hopefully at no cost to some of these folks. Let's talk about some of the fundraisers you've done in the past year or so and how that's working out to, I guess, engage the community and tell them what you're doing.
Sure. So let me start off by saying, yes, all of our programs are offered at no charge to families, and there's no income qualifiers, and so it's all circumstantial based. So if you have a family experiencing this situation, we're going to step up and help you. And to do that, obviously we fundraise and we receive several grants locally. But some fundraisers we've had in 23 that we're going to have in 24, we are going to do a Midsummer Murder Mystery. We're very excited for it, just to taste. It's going to be in the evening, a Saturday evening. Come out, a little bit of a surprise, so I won't give too much away, but again, just a taste. We're going to have a grazing table, lots of food and drinks, some cocktails for you, live music. It's going to be a lot of fun.
Yeah.
And then what else? We are going to do an April Fool's movie trivia lunch that I'm very excited to host this year at Bookhouse Cinema on April 1st, obviously, April Fool's Day. So movie trivia, 11 to 1. Bring a team, come out. Lunch is going to be included. We'll have some really nice prize baskets for the winners.
You also did a bus tour last year, and you're going to do that again. Why is it important to take that journey?
I love that segue. So our Journey Home bus tour, we load a bus up with community members, and we start at Foster Adopt Connect to learn a little bit about kind of the overview of foster care and what that looks like. And then we do a deep dive at some different locations. So we go to Children's Division and we learn about their process for removing and placing foster children in homes, their licensing process, all of that, kind of what those stipulations are. Following that, we'll go to Children's Center, where we learn about that interview process to substantiate abuse and neglect. Following that, we go to Children's Haven, which is a drop-in center, and we really learn about that program, kind of how those kids come in when they are unable to get placed, or maybe even in a crisis situation, that Children's Haven is open. Following that, we visit CASA, learn about that court-appointed special advocate program in Jasper County that is amazing. We also do a mock trial at the juvenile court, which is really, really cool, and learn again about that judicial system. And then finally, we end at Foster Adopt Connect, and we look at some long-term outcomes. And so we look at all the statistics on reunification and adoption and aging out, all the individuals that age out of care, and kind of learn about what those long-term outcomes are and ways that Foster Adopt Connect has programming to alleviate some of those.
All right, we're going to hear more about those impacts. We'll be back with Tom in a moment. We visited with several Foster Adopt Connect program directors and some clients to talk about the supports available to keep kids out of the foster care system. First, we're going to learn about the kinship program, designed to support families who get custody of related children.
She's a single woman in her early 20s, we'll call her Abby, and her life changed dramatically when she became the sole guardian of 4 of her nieces and nephews, then ranging in age from 3 to 12.
I'm gonna be honest, I had no idea what I was doing. Whether or not I had the resources to do it, I was just gonna do it. That's all I knew. I just had that one determination and I was gonna figure it out as we went. I know that there's a lot of resources out there, I just didn't know where to get them, but with the proper guidance and help from other people, I knew that we were gonna be able to get on the right track.
Abby found guidance here at Foster Adopt Connect through the Kinship Program and Kinship Navigator Lynn Hanshaw.
So my main role is helping grandparents, aunts, uncles, teachers, neighbors take in those children who are experiencing issues at home, mainly to keep them out of the foster care system.
At the time, I did not have a home that was adequate enough to have them since with me included, there's 5 of us.
Besides a bigger house, she needed bigger income to meet the kids' needs.
They were very neglected as kids, so they didn't have the proper clothing that they needed, or the health, or just really, honestly, they didn't even have the proper roof over their head. They shouldn't have been living in those conditions. Aside from that, they needed proper stability, not just physically, but also emotionally. So we just needed, honestly, a little bit of everything.
I kind of call myself the filler-in person, helping them figure out food stamps, Medicaid applications. There's a program called Child Only TANF, so it doesn't go off of the family's income, it just goes off the child's income, which of course is 0.
Hanshaw says removing a child from the home is traumatizing to the kids and says that children fare better when they can be placed with a related family member.
You have that bond, you have a sense of belonging. I have seen kids that have been with family grow and prosper where children who have been bounced between the traditional foster care system and family, they have more trouble adjusting to day-to-day life, school systems, and things like that.
Abby understands that struggle all too well, having been in foster care herself, something she didn't want for her nieces and nephews.
We were within the system for 2 years, bouncing around different homes. We got separated since there were so many of us. Our final home, she, God bless her heart, she's actually my landlord. She was able to take all of us in. But I know that was very difficult, and it was honestly such a blessing.
Her own personal experiences with foster care are the driving force behind Abby building a new home for her sister's children.
Having a rough childhood kind of gives you an idea of what not to live and what not to go through and what not to show them. So I think being that kid that was unfortunate and that didn't have that type of life, I think I'm more than positive that I don't want them to live that way.
But becoming a mom to 4 kids came with challenges right at the start. Her oldest nephew was already involved with juvenile court.
So we were really trying to get his grades back up, attending court within the necessary dates that we needed to.
His probation officer offered referrals.
Can I sign you up for a few places that I know can really help you? And I needed the help.
I try to help with guardianships, adoptions, finding beds, linens, food, getting the right school system, IEPs.
And working together, Abby is now reporting positive progress.
They don't need therapy anymore.
Like I mentioned before, the older one, he actually graduated out of juvenile court, which I am very proud of him. They just needed that guidance, that change in their life to go ahead and get them to where they are capable and deserving of having.
For Newsmakers, I'm Peyton Alley.
And we are back at Newsmakers with Tom Furr, the Joplin Branch Director of Foster Adopt Connect. Now, we just heard from a client about the help she's getting to raise her 4 nieces and nephews. Tom, tell us, how common is a case like this?
Unfortunately, I have to say it's more common than you would think. And it never ceases to really just amaze me and blow my mind the way in which these often young people step up for their loved ones, siblings, or other extended family members, and their passion to serve them and love them and care for them, just, man, it really just blows me away every time. So in that situation, again, young lady stepping up, taking on 4 young family members, that's a lot.
It is a lot.
It's
Big
a lot.
changes for her. She had to even change her household. So.
Yeah, you have to change everything. You need bedding for them, clothing for them, hygiene products for them. It changes your transportation schedule. It probably needed to get a bigger car. If you have a Toyota Corolla, you're not going to be able to
You might need the
4 little
minivan.
ones. And so that's a lot. And then the paperwork side, right? Having to figure out how to get enrolled in medical insurance for them, Medicaid or personal insurance or education, getting them to the hospital, having to take off work to do that. That's a big burden on these people. And so having someone who can listen, who can maybe say, I can get you the paperwork to get them in Medicaid. Let's fill it out together.
Well, and somebody might not know where to start. So what's been the impact of this program, the kinship program in our area? How many families have you helped?
So our kinship program has served 55 families this year in 2023. And a lot of those are young people. Some of them are grandparents with grandkids, but it's similar circumstance. They need a bigger vehicle, a different vehicle. Maybe they have a truck and now they need a van. Maybe they have a house that's paid for, but they don't have room for them. And so they're looking at an addition onto the family or onto the home. And so some of the things we've done, we've partnered with local construction companies to get supplies donated. We got a bunch of insulation for a family that was putting an addition up, which is amazing.
Wow.
We've been able to do a lot of paperwork, Medicaid. We've been able to partner with Altic Law locally and do some guardianship work for them, for those families at little or no cost.
That's a question I had because even in the case we had with Abby, she wants to adopt her nieces and nephews, but there's a lot, is it better to adopt? Is guardianship, are there things like that you have to worry about being allowed to do? I mean, is that part of the challenge?
Yes, absolutely. And so there's a difference between guardianship and adoption. I'm not a lawyer, so I won't get into all the legal entanglements there. But essentially, as an adoptive parent, you are that child's parent. You're listed on the birth certificate, and so you get those parental rights. Whereas guardianship, there may be another person in that child's life who maintains parenthood, and they can still come in at any point really and say, hey, I want my child to receive or not receive this whatever.
Care of
right.
some sort, yes.
So obviously adoption carries a little bit more weight, and so if those children are young and that parent is young or that caregiver is young, adoption may look a little more appealing, right? Because they are looking at that long term, especially if there is a parent, maybe an incarcerated parent or a parent who is just really unhealthy in their lifestyle, that you may want to protect against.
So oddly, I mean, one would think, oh, we want them to go with family.
Sure.
That is actually usually an outcome that is a goal in the foster care system, is to reunite families. But when it's going to a relative, it's not necessarily, it's going to become a private adoption. So there is a cost involved, isn't there, for some of these families?
There definitely is a cost involved beyond just the care, the day-to-day care provided. If you're looking even at guardianship, there are attorney fees and court filing fees that are associated. And for guardianship, those can be minimal. But when you look at adoption, those attorney fees, it takes longer in the court filing fees are larger. We have several kinship families who maybe have children from Texas or from another state, and so that can create a whole new series of obstacles, and a lot more cost obviously associated with the attorney having to contact Texas 7 times to do the back and forth. So those fees can add up at $150, $200 an hour, and you're looking at 5 hours just in one process of a
And you guys having
long
resources, or at least places to point these folks in the right direction, is certainly very helpful.
So we're always looking for new partnerships. I should plug, if you're an attorney and you're listening to this, I would love to talk with you.
Pro bono.
Yes, please. Or even if you could just provide some minimally cost things. But yeah, we're always looking for partnerships locally. We have some locally. Those are ever evolving and changing as their capacity changes.
So a relative placement always seems to come with some built-in trust, but even a biological parent can have some shattered trust because of a child being temporarily removed from the home. So even if protection is temporary, let's talk about that as we lead into another profile story about the parenting services. You mentioned some of them. There are in place for struggling parents, and it's really a one-on-one kind of attentiveness, isn't it?
Yes,
that you guys offer.
Our nurturing parenting curriculum program, our nurturing parenting program, our fostering prevention program is absolutely one-on-one. And so we work closely with families, biological families who may be at risk, who maybe lack some education, lack the confidence even. So that program can be self-referred. We do get several referrals from Children's Division, right? Who, hey, this family was hotline, they need your services, or we're gonna do this. And I always say our programs are voluntary, right? And so we want families to come to us in a trusting way, in an open-minded way. And so
don't want to be forced.
Right.
It's not mandatory.
Right. We're not going to twist your arm to take this education, right? But we are going to come to you with some skills and some knowledge and say, hey, we want you to be able to keep your family intact, right? And we recognize that you maybe lack for whatever reason, right? Maybe it was upbringing, maybe it was childhood trauma, maybe you've never been around children in your life and you just don't know how to parent. You've never had that experience, that
nurturing.
And so, we come in, we provide classes on trauma-informed care, dignified discipline. We work on communication skills. We do several parenting assessments, really just to learn, engage where you are, what skills you have, what your communication is like, how you relate to children, to your children. And then we come in again and just provide weekly in-home support. How did that conversation go with your kid when you, instead of doing this that you've always done, when you tried to implement this new skill, what was the outcome? How did that go? And then how do we carry that in and see that growth?
And the goal is to keep them intact as a family.
Keep them intact, help them learn to love one another in a way that's healthy and positive, right? And unfortunately, sometimes we're looking at things like just uncleanliness in the home, or maybe they lack the cleaning supplies, or they've never had the importance of education relayed on them in a way that they want to push onto their future generation. And so just coming in and providing those, hey, education's important because you want your child to be able to grow and learn and have a good career later on.
Right. Self-sustaining.
Right. Yeah. We want to, our vision at Foster Adopt Connect is to break that generational cycle of abuse and neglect. And so anything and everything we can do to empower parents today, to better equip them to do that with their children, we're going to do.
Well, that leads us to Brittany's story, a mom who realized that she was at risk and is finding help at Foster Adopt Connect.
Brittany checks out toys and clothes at Sammy's Window, a free store at Foster Adopt Connect. She's mom to 3 kids, ages 14, 4, and just 1 year old. But she feels her family is at risk after getting divorced.
We went from 2 incomes to 1 income, but then I lost my job. So then it was like no income. So family members were helping, but then they only helped so much. So, like, I kind of went to a depression, and they helped me like build my confidence back up, and so.
Brittany, who struggled with addiction, has been clean 7 years, but knew she needed help to deal with the added stresses of life.
I knew if I would use, like, I'd lose my kids. That's the main thing. Like, that's how I think about things. If I relapse, my kids are gone. So there's no relapse and recovery for me. So.
A relative with a connection to Foster Adopt Connect told her about the fostering prevention program, where Brittany met Miranda Hamilton.
I work with families who could potentially be in danger of their kids going into foster care, or they're just struggling in certain areas and they need some extra parenting help. Yes, like I teach a nurturing parenting curriculum. So we do some assessments and we see what areas of parenting that they need to work on, and then we focus on those areas.
Right now we're trying to like just stay on the routine and keep building my relationship with the kids. So being more positive and more, like I said, accountable for everything. More like discipline with the kids, like instead of just be like, oh, don't do that, and just let them keep doing it. Like I've actually had to follow through and be like, okay, I'm gonna take this toy away from you if you don't stop. And so like they've helped me with the following through as well. So
it's a change from when she battled addiction 8 years ago and temporarily lost custody of her son.
Well, I got him back. Well, our connection wasn't there anymore. Like he was lashing out at school, at me. So like trying to bond with him, but not shut the little ones out too, or not shut him out when I'm trying to bond with the little kids. So it's trying to just balance more parenting tools for me.
So I go to their home. I meet with her every Thursday, and we do our parenting lessons, and we just talk about what's going good, what's not going good, what do you need help with this week. She usually gets her little clipboard out or her dry erase board, and I'll tell her things I want her to work on for the next time, and she writes them up there. She's really good about that. And then so she knows what she needs to get done.
Anyone can refer someone to the program, teachers, counselors, and Miranda also connects clients like Brittany with some basic survival resources.
If she needs help with her utilities, then we do the economic security LIHEAP. We apply for that kind of stuff. She needed help paying some back rent, and we actually were able to get her approved through Christ Church of Oronogo, and they paid $1,200 of her rent. So there's just knowing all the different places in the area that can help and connecting her with them, that's been a big part of it.
Brittany is now working in home health care and hopes others will realize that there is help for parents and families.
They helped me. I'm like, you don't have to be in the system. If you have any kind of like issues with your kids, like parenting, of any sort, discipline, holding yourself accountable, or just learning empathy was one of the big things for me. So it just helped me be more empathetic with my kids and listen to them more and connect more to them. So like if you have any like trouble with any of that, it's helped a lot. And I think my kids would say that I've become a better mom since I've started this program. So.
Welcome back to Newsmakers. We're here talking about Foster Adopt Connect with Branch Director Tom Furr. Tom, we just saw Brittany's story. How many cases are there like Brittany's where a parent might have some issues that puts their family at risk?
Sure. So through our fostering prevention program, we've been able to serve 10 families in the last year. And I would imagine that the capacity is much larger than that, or the need rather is much larger than that. Unfortunately, our capacity is limited because we only have one case manager at this time. However, we're looking at growing, obviously, and as we grow, we will look to grow that fostering prevention program and add more specialists because there are so many families who could benefit, who maybe lack, again, that life experience. Maybe they didn't come from a loving home, or maybe they had some trauma in their life that prevents them from just emoting at a level that our children need.
Well, we often hear the goal of foster care is to reunite families, to keep them together when possible. Do you feel like that might be addressing the problem a little late? I mean, is it better to do that before the kids get taken away?
Absolutely, absolutely. And I know that Children's Division in this latest reform has a big push towards their FCS, that prevention work. and excited to just be a community partner to do that work locally.
Yeah, well, I was going to say, let's talk about the future. And we began with a mention of the legislature trying to reform foster care, which many have said has been needed for years. You're ingrained in the system. Tell us a little bit from the perspectives of your career and personally. I know you've been involved in foster care. What do you think of the system, and what improvements would you say you hope come out of the legislature?
So I am an adoptive parent. My wife and I fostered locally for several years, adopted out of foster care, and then actually went on to adopt privately out of that family. And so I have a really interesting perspective. I think that, and I think it would be hard for anyone to argue, when a child gets removed from their home and placed into foster care, that's most likely the most traumatic thing that's ever happened to them. And so, in my mind, the best thing we can do is to prevent that, right? Like we have data now that shows, educationally, mental health wise, like all of the outcomes for foster kids are way down. And so keeping that family intact is going to prevent those outcomes, right? And so any work we can do to beef up that bio family, to keep them intact, to give them services, to provide them financial support, this is kind of controversial, but I'll share it, and you can cut it if you want. The state pays foster parents. And so if we were to redirect that funding towards that bio family, even at a fraction of per child, that would be quite an impact. And so I think there's some things that we can do as a community and at the state level legislatively to prevent some of the harm that comes out of the foster care system.
Poverty is sometimes an issue.
But poverty is not abuse.
True, but I mean, if neglect, if you weren't feeding your kids because you had to make choices.
Because you lack.
Yeah. So I mean, those are things that could be addressed if money went to parents in advance.
And I think there's a big stigma too around, even in this prevention service, families coming and asking for help, and I think if we can take that away and we can just say, like, families and parents make the best choice that is available to them, and so maybe we need to put them in a situation where their options are better, right? Where the choices that are available to them aren't pay my electric bill or buy groceries, but maybe it's, ask for this help and receive the support on my electric bill so that I can funnel food.
And it is voluntary. Brittany is, getting that help because she did worry.
For sure.
That she didn't want to slip into a situation.
And our families do stack, and so Brittany's able to take advantage of our clothing boutique and our food pantry there. And we also have a behavioral intervention program. And I don't know that Brittany is involved, but I know that some of our prevention families do receive a behavioral interventionist staff, which is a one-on-one staff for that behavioral challenge. So maybe that bedtime, dinner time transition is a nightmare every night, or 4 nights a week, we can have a staff come in. And again, that program's free, voluntary as well. But we come in with a staff and we can provide some behavioral support during those transitional times.
Which, if there's a family in crisis, there may be behavioral issues involved. Thank you for all you do with Foster Adopt Connect. That wraps up our show. Thanks to our guest, Tom Furr, and thank you for watching Newsmakers.